this meeting to order. This special meeting has been called due to scheduling conflicts on our regularly scheduled meeting date. And really, let me just talk off the cuff. There's the paper quoted me very correctly that our new board is going to take over June 10th when they're sworn in. Canvass elections are on May 19th. And we moved this board meeting not to enhance or detract anyone's political campaign, but to take care of business that we need to do with everyone here. The paper said that I said Mr. Damian was going to be out of town. It's not correct. He's going to be out of the country. He's going to be in Europe. I think specifically the Netherlands.
I'll be leaving
Sunday. And we felt it's important that he be here for this decision-making process. There's three things we take care of. We approve policy, we approve the budget, and we take care of the superintendent's contract. And we believe all board members should be here to handle those specific tasks. Especially Mr. Damian. He's been on the board 10 years, 3 times longer than the next 2 tenured school board members, Mr. Howard and I. And we appreciate his input because he's been through 10 years of service. So we really wanted him to be here tonight, and that's why we're meeting tonight. When we discovered he was going to be out of country, we tried to find a date that we could all meet. And because of the Open Meetings Act, we have to wait 3 days or post it for 3 days. This is the best we could do. And the things we discussed tonight are very important, we believe. And for us, the superintendent's evaluation, we started in July, and we need to close it out with the board that set up the criteria for her to be evaluated, for one thing. And also, we're talking about bids from our bonds and instructional materials to be used for the next 7 years. So we thought it was very important that we're all here, especially with Damian, again, as I said, 10 years, but also represents Freeport. So that's why we're here tonight. And we thank all of you for being here tonight also.
Can I say something?
Almost, very soon. I appreciate it. But at this time, we're going to please stand for the invocation and our pledge of allegiance.
Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to once again come together to discuss the workings, God, the business of our district. Father, we thank you for this great district that we are a part of. Father, I pray that we would represent it and that we would represent you well tonight as we conduct our business. Father, I pray for all of our students, for all of our staff, Father, for our teachers, Father, for everyone who's a part of this great district. Father, just thank you for each board member being here. Father, I just pray that your hand will be upon each one of us. Father, just forgive us when we mess up. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
At this time, in accordance with local policy DED, the board will provide an audience with individuals assigned up prior to the meeting to address the board. Please note that comments are limited to a maximum of 5 minutes per speaker, and we allow 30 minutes for the entire meeting. Delegations of more than 5 persons shall appoint a representative to present their views to the board. Please, the board will not entertain negative comments on individual people or students in public session. Patrons are encouraged to use appropriate campus administration channels before bringing concerns to the board. And finally, board members, we're not allowed to deliberate, discuss, or make decisions regarding the subject without an agenda posted. In other words, we can't make comments unless it's on the agenda. So we have tonight 4 speakers. And the first one is Mr. Adam Sinek. If you'll come forward, please. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to.
Oh, excuse me. And I apologize, Mr. Sinek. Will you be our timekeeper and rely on 5 minutes? And maybe a 1 minute warning? Thanks. All right, sorry about that. Thank you.
All right, thank you for me to speak. As I said, my name is Adam Sinek. I have 2 children in Reservoir ISD, grades 6 and 8. My wife is also a teacher of the district and has been teaching for 17 years. Those of you who know me, I'm not a very most outspoken person in large groups, so just bear with me. I just needed to feel that I needed to share what I thought about the district and how it was being run. First of all, I want to thank you guys for your good leadership. As a parent, I'm amazed what this leadership has done in the last few years. I mean, you go back a few years ago with the bus route consolidation, and saving $250,000, $250,000 a year. That's drastic. Also, the bond. I know my wife was really happy when to not be able to use the chalkboard in her classroom, but actually be able to use a smart board, which allows all the students to actively participate in the more lessons. I know there's some questions about the current state of Bradsport ISD. Yet I believe that the district is turning in the right direction and it's trying to repair the decline that started back in 2007. I know the TA visited the district and the preliminary results were shared. And they had many positive things to say about this district, including that the district is has a well-functioning leadership team, and then as well as praising the leadership team for clearly setting defined vision and direction. I also want to point out that the TEA recommended that the BISD continue to implement the aligned curriculum at all campuses. I think this is great for BISD, is working towards ensuring that all schools are aligned on the same curriculum. I know my wife sure loves it when she receives a student from another school in the district and they're learning the exact same material. Speaking about my wife, she's a 5th and 6th grade math teacher at Rasco. She mentioned to me a few nights ago that her students today, they're not the exact same they were 17 years ago when she started teaching. Today's children are very media driven and excel when given interactive lessons. I see it in my own children and on my select soccer team that I coach. If I use a clipboard to show those guys a play, they're not engaged at all. But yet if I have the same information on an iPad, they are all focused and learning at a much higher level than I ever expected. My wife also stated that 17 years ago, teaching was teacher directed and mainly used textbooks. It's not been easy for her to adapt to the new style of teaching. Students through the use of collaborative small groups, but this year she's had some encouraging times when she witnessed students being able to explain and teach other students how to do certain problems and working in groups. This shows that they truly grasp the concepts and they are learning. People who can work collaboratively as a team are the employees that I want to hire in the workplace. I said this is a skill that needs to be learned when entering the workplace, before entering the workplace. And I believe that the current vision of the district will enable our students to master this current skill. My wife also shared with me that the 6th graders were given a benchmark test, which was very similar to the 2013 STAR test this past January. The 6th graders that took that test basically had the same results, if not better, than the students last spring. So therefore, in a half a year, they had the same results, and they had not covered all the materials. This shows that our students are learning at a higher level. And I know she is looking forward to seeing an increased passing percentage for this year. The bottom line, as I said, is that change can be scary. I know the district's going through some change, but change also takes time. I say if we stay true to the current strategic plan that the board and then some other cross-functional teams developed in 2012, then I know that the BISD will basically become a truly excellent district again. I'm proud to have you guys all as leadership in the district that strive for excellence, but also care for the students at the same time. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Finnick. Thank you for coming today. Our next speaker is Mr. Ryan Huey.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Huey. I won't take very long. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you guys. I just wanted to remind all the board members of the petition that was sent and to consider that there are a lot of people in the community that would prefer to postpone, and if not postpone, to not extend the current superintendent's contract until the STAR test results and state assessments are in. This decision should not be made on a what-if scenario. I also want to remind you that the names in this petition that I sent to you are meant to be kept confidential and were only sent to the board members. A performance review should be based on just that, performance. I ask you all, are y'all going to do that this evening? Base it on performance? And also, if you read the comments that I sent, you'll see that a lot of people in this community would ask for consequences. I'm not here to ask you for consequences this evening. I simply ask that you give no rewards. If you choose to reward, what message are you sending to our students in our schools? They need to be taught that just because you put in the work, you will automatically be rewarded. They don't need to be taught that just because you put in the work, you will automatically be rewarded. In fact, sometimes it isn't fair. Life isn't fair. And that hard work that you put in doesn't always pay off. Ultimately, our students need to realize that it's both the efforts and the results of that work that are going to be evaluated. And this is what determines what the reward should be. There are many here in the community that work out in plants, and they can identify that there's good years and there's bad years. And in the bad years, we don't get the raises and bonuses, even though we all worked hard. But there are good years, and we endure those bad years so we can get to those good years, so we can reap the rewards. Mr. Atkins, I ask that you think about the community and the people that you represent in your decisions this evening. Mr. Fussell, I ask that you don't go along just to go along and don't pass the buck.
I don't ever do that.
Mr. Damien, I also ask that you consider the community that you represent and you make decisions based on performance this evening. Jim, I ask you to make the right decisions for the right reasons. Mr. Howard, I ask that you think about your wife and all the other teachers in this district when you're making your decisions this evening. George, may your words be well received. Joe, thank you for your integrity. And I want to thank all of you for letting me speak to you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huey.
Mr. President, there is a point of order that we can discuss is that any records that are sent to the board as open records are open records.
Could we all use our microphone?
Couldn't hear.
Just a point of clarification that any record sent to an elected official like we are is subject to the Open Records Act. So just want to make sure that's understood.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Debbie Figner. My son is a fourth grade teacher.
Dustin's also mine.
Okay, board members, Dr. Holoxton, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to talk to you tonight. I'm Debbie Figner. I'm retired 2 years. I taught in Braces Sport for 25 years, and 22 of those were my most wonderful, favorite, contented, happy years at Boyle Elementary. You go back into the 1990s when I first got to Boyle, I've had the pleasure of teaching lots of children who were members and grandchildren of board members or administrators. Started in 91 when I had Joe Bowman's granddaughter, and I had Joe Welch's daughter. Mr. Massey, I had your son. Mr. Frizzell, I had your son. And Mr. Cook, I had both of your sons.
I apologize.
Well, I was going to say, every one of you are just the kind of parent that every teacher wants. So, but every one of you at some time or another has expressed your sincere appreciation and gratitude that your children were blessed to attend Boyle, and that they were nurtured and loved and safe. And you held the campus staff and administrators in high esteem. I think you knew that there was just something different about Boyle. Successful campuses are determined by its campus leader, if that leader is allowed to lead. Working under heavy-handed demands and being watched with a critical eye by top administrators is not very motivating. Our leader at Boyle continually inspired and motivated our staff to do whatever it took to lead our children to success, and regard our colleagues with respect and support. She participated with her staff and looked for all the good things that she could find about us. She let us know when there were some things that she didn't like, but she observed something special. She put a sticky in our mailbox and let us know about it. She didn't warm our coffee for us, but she would sit down with us with a cup of coffee and discuss our concerns. Or sometimes it was just simply to visit with us. She demonstrated daily the leadership style known as, I have a hard time with this, participative. Okay. Well, since in the last 3 years, we've had another leadership style from the top. And all I can say is that in this district, its schools are slipping away from the stakeholders, from a well-respected district to become one of the lowest performing districts in Texas. Maybe that's why people moving here for new jobs are choosing to settle in Pearland rather than Brazosport. There was an audit and improvements were needed. I don't have a problem with that. But I, as well as a multitude of parents and students and taxpayers, have witnessed that the leadership style implemented during the last 3 years does not lead us in a positive direction. I don't have time to give you examples of that, but there are hundreds of dissatisfied customers and BISD employees who can tell a variety of personal experiences. And those experiences came about because of the management in our district. There's no reason an autocratic leadership style must be implemented to get the results desired. What's the saying? You can catch more flies with honey than vinegar. The top echelon of BISD needs to think about who are the flies. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
Mr. Speaker.
for what you did for my son. I appreciate it.
Thank
He
you.
wouldn't be where he is now. if It was not for you.
Oh, wow.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Doris Pinkston.
Well, I stand here tonight again as a physical vote against extending the superintendent's contract until we get the TDA results and the official STAR results for this school year. You continue to claim that this is not a ploy. However, that's exactly what it is, a ploy. Yes, I agree you may legally be bound to do her evaluation. However, claiming that you need to make a vote on her salary and or extension to her contract is stretching it too far. I stand here 1 year later as you did this very same thing right before election last year because you were afraid the tides were turning, and that's just what they did. Now here it is again election time, and the same tactics are being displayed, and you're wondering why everyone is upset. They're upset because the president of the board is scheduling a 5 o'clock meeting on a Friday with only a 72-hour notice. The same man who promised me a year ago that he would do what it took to fight against Cisco. Well, we'll see how that's been. Then we have another board member who was elected last year who said that he would fight for what was right, and yet he's looking at over 500 names on a petition and pointed out who signed and telling the superintendent and others. Really? I mean, what do you think we're trying to accomplish? Intimidation? I'm not really sure, but I would like to remind you that everyone, teacher or not, has a right to be a voice, and you cannot and will not muffle them. I would like for the 4 to 5 board members who continue to be yes men to open up your ears and listen. You tell me every time at every board meeting you're claiming that you're listening, but the fact is you're just not. Again, let's stop playing these games. Let's delay the vote of her contract until all of the new candidates who are returning and coming in are in place and see how the vote turns out. Most people who vote on hot topics like this obtain all the facts before making a decision. So, BISD Board of Trustees, I come before you asking you to do the very same thing. I truly wish that you were just as concerned about all the magnificent teachers and students that you're losing. And one last question is why are the teachers only given a 1-year contract? Thank you.
Mr. Pinkston.
Nice job.
It was very good.
Nice job.
We spent a lot of time on the phone the last couple of days, and this is my last month of school board meetings, and I want to say that I've enjoyed hearing from passionate people on both sides. And no matter what side you're on, it's good to hear passionate people in our community, and enjoy talking to many people who may not agree with me, but I do appreciate your passion, and I thank you for speaking tonight. Our lawyer is not here, is that correct? Still? And he's on his way, but was held in court, so we're gonna postpone our executive session and move on to some action
Isn't that
items
when
to
the
give him more
board-
time to be here.
The lawyer was supposed to be here too, that's why?
Excuse me. We're moving on to the closed part of the session. Our lawyer will be here when he gets here, from court, and he's on his way. And, so we're gonna go to action items, and the first one is bids and renewals. Mr. Schaefer, thank you.
Whatever works for them.
Good evening. In accordance with board policy CH, in alignment with CISD strategic plan to provide adequate resources for alternative funding and sound financial stewardship, I'm happy to present the month of May is rather busy when it comes to bids. If you look at our through the board book, you see that there's 8 proposals this year, this month, including band and orchestra equipment, network printers, flooring, child nutrition serving lines, student life replacements, mobile computing devices, classroom projections, network cabling, all things that are going to transpire over the summer. Looking at the bond-related items only, with over $4 million worth of bond-related items. The bid tabulations are included in your board packet for your review. At this time, it is recommended that the board of trustees award the bid proposals as recommended. I won't read all of them. These are rather long lead time items for some of them, and obviously to get them in place where they start the school year, it's going to take some time, so appreciate the opportunity.
Any questions? Mr. Atkins?
On the, on our, child nutrition serving line,
Yep.
that's for Og, Stephen F. Austin, Brandon, Roydell, and Gladstone. That's not we. ISI commercial, I mean, they're a little bitter, but commercial refrigeration, so, no, they're not filters. Sorry about that. No, never mind. I was wondering why refrigeration company could do the remodeling, but it's actually, should be awarded to Pasco Groceries.
Yes, sir.
Okay, misread. So, let me ask the question anyway. You know, they qualified, have they done this before for us?
Yep.
Okay. That's it.
Questions?
Oh, I do have one more observation, I'm sorry. Sure. I just, you know, the bond money for, our, mobile computing devices, which is like, $1 million, $1.5 million, $1.6 million, and then related equipment. Total, 1.8. That is a local company, correct? PC here?
Yes.
That's good use of money.
So who's gonna oversee this work? If it's gonna occur during the summer, is the construction manager that we have retained, or?
After these items, the ones the board approved those last month were the Gallagher construction, which included a number of facility-related items. Purchases exceeding $25,000, you'll actually see some of the purchase orders related to that going out. So these will be overseen by our internal departments. So technology will oversee the technology-related, maintenance is overseeing the flooring projects, fine arts is overseeing the band and orchestra equipment, so on and so forth.
I know during the summer, there's that period of time where central administration building kind of gets shut down and locked and.
Unfortunately not.
I have a question, please. If you go back to the.
Sure. Mr. So do you mind using your microphone, please?
Well, I'll speak up.
Okay.
I understood last year that the budget included the money that was needed for the classroom projectors, like, and I consider a projector what we have here and here.
Yes.
Are these for classrooms that did not get a classroom projector?
Yes. It's the remaining page. Oh. Alter our plan there.
We've actually completed phase one. We started at the high schools, and then now phase two is covering all of the middle and elementary, and that will be completed this summer.
All right, one of the problems that I was told when I talked to teachers is that they were not given any input where to actually locate the classroom projectors that would suit their benefit when they had to use it in their classroom. And I just hope that that is done, that we get input from the teachers when we're gonna install these projectors in their rooms.
I can speak to that, and if we would like to go another direction, we're definitely be happy to take feedback. What we did is we approached the campus administrator with that and tried to unify a decision at the campus level as to what would be best for the campus. Historically, what we found, if we go to each individual teacher, we end up building a classroom to meet the needs of that individual teacher instead of what is the best overall design for the campus. So our hope would be is if as we take that to the campus administrator, that they meet with their teachers and they come up with it, unified as a campus. This is what we think the best setup will be. You'll always have odds and ends, like we had some issues in science labs that didn't work out well, that we had to go back and kind of retrofit. But that was the overall goal, to take it to the administrator and say, please provide us the feedback, because we definitely don't know the technology department. And I understand there could be varying ways that the campus has handled that, but if there's a recommendation as to how we should proceed, be happy to take that.
Well, my concern is what I was told. I don't want an administrator to go and tell a teacher how to install a classroom projector when they have the knowledge and the experience, which I trust they will if they're the teachers that have been here. Now, other trustees don't have to agree with me, but I was told that there were some problems. I don't want a campus administrator to have a full run. I want them to talk to the teachers and listen to them as to what they need.
I agree, sir. I think the main drive behind that is if we can make the classroom somewhat standard, then if a teacher ends up moving rooms, then it's virtually the same setup. Whereas otherwise, it kind of keeps you, let's say that you want to arrange things, so maybe you have all your math teachers in the same wing, whereas the semester before they weren't. Now they're end up in a different setup, and it creates problems. So I know it can't always be perfect, but that was the idea, to try and get the campus to kind of come to a consensus, so that it creates, almost like we have the alignment with the curriculum. If we kind of make the room somewhat similar, people can move from room to room, and it doesn't create as much problems. But well noted, and we will definitely try and work hard to make that process.
Like a biology lab versus a chemistry lab versus a history lab.
I want to personally, for my expertise, thank you for adding some vendors that I know are lower cost than we did a year ago. We talked about this, and for band instruments and orchestras, and there's more vendors, I think. I'm sure we got a better price, so I want to note that I appreciate the addition of some vendors that I know will help us save money, so thank you for that. Any other questions? Is there a motion?
Oh. Mr. David, make a
Motion? Yes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Schaefer, appreciate it.
I'm next, dude.
Thanks for being here. Purchases exceeding $25,000. Mr. Schaefer.
He's tricking me. In accordance with board policy CH, included in your packet is the following. There's a number of items, obviously, approaching summertime. Some of the ones I wanted to highlight were Indigo sales, the 426 whiteboards, which goes along with the projections that we just talked about. All those take time, obviously, to be installed, so we're hopefully getting an early start on those. And then the playground equipment, along with security fencing, some of the things that are a little longer lead time, highlighting through this process. So a lot of it you saw last month through a bid, and now we're simply following up with the actual release of the purchase order and obligating the funds. So if you have any answer any questions at this time.
Questions?
I don't have a question, I got the comment.
Comments?
Okay. I guess the second item, engaged learning, project-based learning. I have heartburn with that. Fundamentally, I cannot support a move to a progressive education. Project-based learning, I've done some research on it, and there's some potential benefit, but I think that there's more harm than the actual benefit. If the projects aren't designed well and executed well, then I think it will detract from our children's education. I think that it takes time to implement a project, and that's valuable time that is taken away from true instruction in the classroom. The research that I did on PBL was you're supposed to use current technology or current issues to try to educate children. And by picking a current issue, that's supposed to make it more engaging. And a lot of the examples that they gave is how to reduce pollution, how to conserve energy, and a lot of things that we as a society of adults have not yet figured out yet. It's going to be very difficult for children, especially K through 4, to try to solve problems that they don't have basic fundamental knowledge of math and science and history in which to draw upon to try to solve those problems. So at a very philosophical, fundamental level, I object to PBL. I know there's research that says it's great, but there's also research that says it's not great. I'm tied into the Brookings Institute, which is a think tank in Washington, D.C., and they say it's not working. And so based on that, I'm actually going to make a motion to scratch that item from this list and that we not purchase this training for our teachers. I think the teachers at Nolasco would be better served by being trained on instruction that will actually improve our children's education, not this educational fad type material. So I move to scratch.
Dr. Compton. No, I'm comfortable. We will comments? We can wait. Okay.
I have I just make a comment first.
Wait, I'm sorry. Point of order.
We can have a
There's a
second.
motion on the floor and needs a second.
We need a second. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion fails due to lack of a second.
I second. There'd be a vote on it.
I'm sorry? Bill's who seconded it?
Yeah, I want to see a vote on it.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I would like to ask, the purpose of the engaged learning system is what? I mean, is this
Mr.
child-
Conductor?
Is to support our campus as a focus campus, in other words, from the system of they have not been successful. So this is a program that's set up to give them some coaching and some training to support teachers, to teach students that are having difficulties. It also allows them to bring coaches in and mentors for lessons, that type of thing.
So these are outside coaches, not the consultants or and this is this perhaps a model for to use down the road at other campuses, or is it just focused on this one area?
Of course, they always do everything as a college. If it's successful at one, it's good for one, we want to look at it for others. But right now, our campus administrator, at Nolasco, is going to train, she's investigative, she is talking to staff, and board,
Yeah, Velasco Elementary received funds from the state as a result of being a focus campus. And this was how, when they analyzed their campus and identified ways in which they wanted to utilize the funds, they did some research in regards to this model and felt like this was the next direction for their campus and felt like it was appropriate for their school and aligned with the direction that they were trying to go in regards to having true project-based learning, where it is related to more of a workforce model students working through projects and working collaboratively. This is an initial phase where coaches would come in, they would provide training, they provide support, but right now the funding is only available for this one campus at this moment in time. It is something that we would, of course, analyze through the process and determine if we wanted to do anything further. But at this moment, there's not funding for other campuses, it's just for this one.
And so this was the choice. This was the choice of the school administration, the actual administration, and funds, our funds stayed to, since it is a focus campus. Now, is there anything else that can be done? I mean, other than,
But they're not coming in to focus and train on existing procedures and policies. They're coming in to teach a new teaching method. A teaching method that's part of a progressive change in American education that I don't believe our small town community will support that shift. So this is not just trying to strengthen what we already have. This is something added on top of everything else that we already
Okay. So, what I understand, Rita Kunda, the principal of Velasco, has requested this. Dr. McCoy Jackson, do you support what she's doing? Has anybody on this board come to talk to you and or Rita about what she's requesting that you're aware of? So I'm expected to make a decision based upon an opinion rather than an informed opinion or a recommendation? Thank you. I don't know how to do that. I won't do that. Thank you, Howard. Mr. Phillips?
Well, I want to echo your sentiments, because if I talk to the public, I understand curriculums, but I have better understanding of grades. When I hear a focus campus, I believe that Velasco is at the bottom of the grading when it comes to the state. I mean, you could say that they're on the verge of being shut down. I keep hearing last year that we need this program and we need this program and we need this program. This is a $94,000 program that we're asked to approve without us even knowing what it's about. I don't know what it's about. I'm not gonna vote for it. But I want this administration to know. I've had a year to learn how to be a trustee. I've had a year to learn the law that the state mandates trustees to follow. And by God, I am not going to shirk that responsibility any longer. Now, we need to change this culture that we can just come to this board and say, this is what we need. I'm against it. And thank you.
I have a question.
No?
Joe, what are you against? We have a motion to not do it.
I'm going to vote against it, that's it.
Okay.
I want to be clear, I support it, because the campus administrator says it meets their needs. Our administration here, our curriculum director, says it meets that campus needs. I trust you, so I'm for this.
Well, the whole process is to engage, collaborate, design, create, and then we, that's the circle of what they're trying to do. Because it is a transformation time. It's something that's not working with the units. So it's a chance, it's not throwing away everything we do, it's a chance for the
Let me ask you this question, Doctor, and I apologize for asking it this way. Am I correct in saying that we are targeting this school because it's a very, very low-rated school in this district?
Not in this district, in our state county.
Well, it's the best part, you know, and that's another thing. We've been getting the scores when we compile both the scores of VISD as Brazosport and Brazosport. But if you take them apart, and you take the ratings of just Brazosport versus Brazosport, Brazosport is going to be much lower than Brazosport. Am I right or am I wrong? You're telling me that the scores of Brazos Wood would be equal of Brazos Port?
We need to stick to the motion. The motion is whether to use PBL or not at Velasco Elementary, so.
Motion is to remove that from. Yes.
Right, exactly. And, is there anyone?
Call for a vote, please.
Okay. Can I ask one question before I call vote? It says Fund 211. Can I ask where that fund comes from?
Title I federal funds.
So it's from federal funds, not our own taxpayers' money.
Not a local tax base, it's based on federal dollars.
Federal dollars, thank you. And if we don't use it, we sell those federal dollars for this PBL. I mean, we can use this money for any other program if we had to.
Any other.
Just making sure, thank you. Okay, all those in favor, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay?
Nay.
The motion does not carry.
I'd like to have a couple happy questions here. One of them is family leadership. This is the parenting partner workshop, which I attended. One, I got to attend Lanier's graduation, and I attended Pope's, and had one at Velasco, and Vasco, yes. And so, who's this for? What's our plans for the parenting party?
It has turned out to be a really great opportunity
Oh,
for our
there's no
parents
question
to
about it.
bring them in. So, I know we're looking at, expanding the program and offering it to different campuses. So we always, throw it out to the campuses, would like to participate. And since the participation rate has been so good, I think we have a list of people that we want to put on campuses that we want to involve, so we're really excited.
So is this expenditure for the training?
The training of the
Okay,
facilitators.
so that's what, I talked to some of the instructors and the helpers. They went, and it was, I was surprised, there was, I think when you pointed this out, there was a parent who went at Vasco to the training and helped, conduct the program. And, Mr. Frey back there was a graduate. He doesn't have his hat on, but he was a graduate, so, anyway, that's good, because we need to expand that, because it was pretty exciting. When we went to Lanier, what, there was five graduates, and it represented 9 or 10 kids. And 9 or 10 kids, and so they got to see the parents graduate. That was great. The other I just want to make sure is that these are purchasing for the new playground equipment at Boyle, Austin, Long, Pope, Griffith, Fleming, along with the fencing. Is that correct? That's the way we did it.
Correct.
Okay. So that will be done in the summer?
Yes, sir. That's the plan.
Okay. That's all I have.
Any more discussion or questions? Is there a motion to pass these $25,000 more expenditures?
Motion.
And second?
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay? Thank you, the motion carries. Our third action item is instructional materials allotment purchases. Thank you, Mr. Schaefer.
Thank you. Sorry.
Good evening. In accordance with Board Policy EFAA Legal and Local and Strategy 1.1 of the strategic plan, which states, design, align, and implement a comprehensive, rigorous K-12 curriculum, we'd like to provide you with information regarding Proclamation 2014 and a recommendation for the adoption of new instructional materials for mathematics, science, and technology applications. The State Board of Education issued Proclamation 2014 in April of 2012. Proclamation 2014 calls for the adoption of new instructional materials. The process of review and adoption has taken place throughout this school year. Adopted materials will be available to students and teachers beginning next school year. These instructional materials will be used for 8 years. Proclamation 2014 calls for the adoption of mathematics materials in kindergarten through 8th grade and Spanish math materials in kinder through 5th grade. Science materials from kindergarten through high school and Spanish science materials from kinder through 5th grade. And technology application resources for kindergarten through high school. VISD followed an extensive process to review and evaluate the instructional materials under consideration. In 2012, the State Board of Education issued Proclamation 2014. In the fall of 2013, BISD formed a content advisory committee to guide the adoption process. From there, teachers were recruited to participate in content area subcommittees to review materials. In October of 2013, a rubric was developed to help teachers and the coordinators evaluate the various components of the numerous products. In December, sample materials from several publishers were available to our curriculum work groups for the teachers to examine. In January, Harris County Department of Education held a vendor showcase for mathematics. 2 coordinators, 3 instructional coaches, and 4 teachers attended. In February, Harris County Department of Education held a vendor showcase for science. The science coordinator, along with 4 teachers, attended. In January and February, sample materials from multiple publishers were requested and sent to campuses throughout the district. On February 26th and 27th, BISD held public hearings at the Professional Resource Center to give parents, community members, teachers, and administrators an opportunity to hear about the materials BISD was considering. In March, teachers who were on the subcommittee completed and returned their rubrics. In April, content coordinators provided recommendations to the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction Assessment and then the superintendent. After these conversations, coordinators received formal proposals from the vendors. And in early May, recommendations and costs were presented to the BISD Instructional Materials Committee. These recommendations were approved. And tonight, we present recommendations to the Board of Trustees for approval.
After this process, the administration recommends that BISD adopt these publishers for math, science, and technology applications. For K-8 math, K-8 science, biology, chemistry, and physics, we recommend Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. For integrated physics and chemistry, or IPC, we recommend McGraw-Hill. For AP Physics 1 and 2, AP Physics C, AP Chemistry, Astronomy, and Anatomy and Physiology, we recommend Pearson. For forensics, we recommend Kendall Hunt. And then for technology applications, we recommend the Learning Internet by Learning.com. As you consider these recommendations, it is important to note that we have $1.6 million in the Instructional Materials Fund, plus $500,000 remaining from previous years. On this slide, you can see the cost for each product. Please note the following. Starting at the bottom, the subscription cost to Learning.com is annual. The 3 costs in the middle pay for the entire 8-year adoption. And at the top, you will notice that there are 2 cost options listed for Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. Tonight, you will decide which one we will select. There are 2 options for Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. Both options include 8 years digital access to all resources for teachers and students. The difference between the 2 options rests in how many years we will purchase print consumable books for K-8 math and K-8 science. The cost difference between 2 years print and 4 years print is approximately $140,000. The administration is also working with Houghton Mifflin Harcourt on a payment agreement that will allow us to pay half of the amount this year and the other half over the next 3 years through June 2017. Recommendation 1. The administration recommends the board adopt Houghton Mifflin Harcourt for K-8 math, K-8 science, biology, chemistry, and physics. The board will need to select which option we pursue. Recommendation 2. The administration recommends the board adopt McGraw-Hill for IPC, Pearson for AP Physics 1 and 2, AP Physics C, AP Chemistry, Astronomy, and Anatomy and Physiology, and then Kendall Hunt for forensics. And then recommendation 3, the administration recommends the board adopt Learning.com for technology applications. At this time, we are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions? Explain to me what forensic is.
Here, right now.
Oh, it's science?
It's science course, it's a science elective at high school.
I mean, is it really forensics?
Yeah. And as we move with House Bill 5 and more STEM classes and more student choice, we're expecting, with all of our courses, but certainly with the science elective, to have more students following those paths.
So is it safe to assume that this is perhaps a little higher level science and, okay, good.
Specialized.
Yeah, specialized is quite a better word, okay. Okay, very good. Got my question.
Questions? Mr. Jones? Mr. Jones?
I'm always concerned about two things. How much do we actually input do we get from the teachers that are going to teach the science courses and math courses? And the second is, when you tell me that you got public input, how many people actually attended this public hearing that we had?
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Sullivan actually attended both nights. We had, the public hearing, we had approximately, there was 3 different districts. We joined in with Danbury, Angleton, and ourselves, and we had probably about 80 per district, I would think. And then as far as input from teachers, we had about 70 teachers that actively participated in this election.
That completed rubrics. You see now, you would be opening up Pandora's box because I don't think Danbury, Angleton, and BISD, they're totally different. And I'm thinking aloud, what could we get from Danbury that would help us, or from Angleton, or that we could give them that would help them?
Let me just clarify. When the vendors come in for these nights, it's just an opportunity for the vendors to share their information. And so the other districts can join in and they have to make their decisions in their own district. But it was a nice collaboration to be able to hold that all together.
So just my final question. The teachers that would teach these courses gave substantial input into what you're telling me to approve.
They were given opportunity to give input.
No, I don't want to hear it. They actually gave input.
We can't force them to do that. We can offer them, and they had the opportunity to come those nights as well. And yes.
Two of the courses that don't have a recommendation were aquatic science and environmental, because we didn't have recommendations from the teachers, so we only recommended on courses that were actually evaluated by teachers.
Is there a big cost difference between Houghton, Mifflin, and Harcourt, and Pearson? Because I looked at the material and I was not impressed with them. I was very impressed with Pearson for a number of reasons. One, actually, the textbooks were more like workbooks that the students could actually take notes in it and take it home so their parents could actually see what the kids were working on. Which, I mean, if we're trying to encourage community and parental involvement, having the book, I think, would be a benefit. And I actually took copies of Pearson's stuff home, not as board member, but as dad, to help my kids, because it was very impressive material. So, was cost a factor in the decision?
Honestly, cost wasn't what we were looking at. We were looking at our strategic plan about aligning the curriculum. And when you looked at Pearson K through 5, it was hard. It was a very, very tough decision. But once you looked at it K through 12 and looking at our alignment, Pearson 6 through 12 was extremely lacking. And there were areas that it would not have helped us. And so overall, to be aligned and so that our students get the same experience and learn the same vocabulary and those kind of things, K through 12, we chose.
Yeah, that seems odd.
We're recommending.
Pearson's strong enough to teach AP classes. I find it very difficult that they got this big giant gap in the middle.
I'll let Mr. Williams speak that.
One of the interesting things about reviewing Pearson, I reviewed the 6-8 math and led that, and Sandra led the K-5. And I had done my review of College Board, Houghton Mifflin, McGraw-Hill, and Pearson. And out of those 4, at the 6-8 level, Pearson was 4th. And so when Sandra began looking, Celia began looking, her teachers began looking, and she started saying all these positive things about Pearson, I first questioned one of our judgments. But when we started looking at it more, one of the things to look at, there was a time when you had 20 publishers, and now they've all bought each other out. We're talking about Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt. Well, that used to be 2 or 3 different, that's why it has so many names. And then you look at something made by Pearson, and you actually look for Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt, and there's Holt McDougall. They now are owned by this other, and those used to be 2. So what happens in some of these, and you can speak, I don't know who was the kind of the sub-publisher underneath Pearson for 6-8. Was it Scott Forsman for K-5? And so the metaphor I've been working on as, Disney gives us wonderful movies like Lion King and Little Mermaid, and those are brilliant movies, but then they give you Lion King 2, made by their junior team that goes straight to DVD. And so that's kind of how, when I've looked at these 2 pieces, Pearson and Houghton Mifflin for math, K-8, they were the only 2 that we could keep together that would go all the way through K-8. I thought College Board had some strengths. It didn't meet all of our district needs, but it was only 6-8. McGraw-Hill was also only 6-8. Each one of those publishers had strengths. But when coming back to our conversations, looking at things, how does it, think about, Sandra has a kid starting kindergarten next year, and this is an adoption for 8 years. And that kindergarten will be using the same adoption as a 7th grader. And so and by also aligning the science and the math, and also what we have with English language arts, as we move more and more, we're not there yet, but as we move more and more to those digital components, students, parents, teachers, we're really learning more, really one system as opposed to systems all over the place. So that tied a lot of things together. So I think K-5, Pearson was solid. It was Pearson and Houghton Mifflin. But when we looked at the alignment piece, and that's one of those huge guiding points that every one of us has our laminated strategic plan up in our office or on our desk, and coming back to those, it's that alignment piece, and that was a strong point.
Well, the other part I really liked about Pearson was the fact that they actually generated teacher lesson plans based on the 5E model. So I saw that as a significant time savings for our teachers.
It was actually Hope Mifflin that has the 5E. Pearson had a similar model that could fit into a 5E, but only had 3 components.
And when you asked also about Pearson producing some of those high school courses, those are, I guess in a sense, non-core, and so they're more electives. And so when Houghton Mifflin was publishing, they focused on K-8 core, and then the big 3 in science, biology, chemistry, and physics. So I'm not sure that they had full resources to offer at those.
Well, I think the other piece I like, and this was the information I was given, Pearson is the company that writes the STAR test. So one would think that there would be some advantage to using material that they teach if they're the ones that are actually writing the STAR test.
You're correct that they are the same company, but once we really evaluated the curriculum from 6th grade and up, they didn't have, the resources that you saw firsthand were not there for 6 and 8, and so it really would not have helped us in any way to prepare for the STAR test if we would have gone with that option for the upper grades.
Any other questions, Mr. Sills? Oh, Mr. Howard, excuse me.
Option A to option B. From option A to option B.
What do the teachers want? Do they want paper for 4 years, or do they want paper for 2 years? It's a lot of money. So where they want. As a student, I needed paper. I mean, that's before the digital age, so what's the best? What's your opinion of what y'all want?
Let me make a clarification. On the 8 years digital, part of that adoption is that teachers can print out. You have everything that you're going to get in print, you can also get online, so they always have that option to print things out. This would just allow them to have that, just to be clear on that. And that's a point of discussion, and it is our IMA committee that met. On that particular committee, the feeling we would, I guess from our department, go with the 2 years would be our recommendation, but it is your decision as a board to make that. Being that looking ahead towards what our district is moving towards and part of our bond and part of our strategic plan to move forward to have a 1-to-1, but
We can print it.
yes, no matter which option.
I heard the word alignment. So this will help us to be vertically aligned.
Yes, sir.
So we're not aligned now.
We're working on it.
Is that yes, we are not aligned now?
Well, at this time, we're working to become aligned, so we're not aligned now in certain areas. That's correct.
I don't want to word semantics here. I want a straight answer. We're not aligned now, and that's what I need to know.
Any other questions for Travis?
Let's follow up on the alignment. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's when we chose to implement the curriculum in the 3 phases. The reason we're not aligned is that 3rd phase is not implemented until the next school year.
Yes, that's a big factor.
That's a big factor.
That's kind of the foundation factor there. The curriculum, the decision that was made last month will put us next year with the same curriculum across the district. That is aligned curriculum at that point. And then the resources, this has to do with the resources. Right now, our materials that we have for these areas are very much outdated. Next year, we'll be having to do the adoption for social studies, K through 12. So in that respect, we're not aligned because those resources are very outdated and are all different.
Our math teaks right now, this is the last year for our current math teaks. Our teaks will change next year. So as the teachers are changing to those new teaks, they will have new resources that are aligned to the new teaks. When we had science teaks change 5 or 6 years ago, I don't even think it's been since I've been in this position, so less than 5 years, we didn't have a textbook adoption. So they're still using textbooks from 13 years ago that don't align with the teaks as far as the textbook goes. So this will align the textbook to the state standards. And having the digital option allows those teaks to automatically update those textbooks as the teaks change from the state as well.
That's a good thing to know. That's why electronic textbooks are good, they keep up.
And also researched or read the new math teaks. It jumps ahead, is that correct? Is that the right term? Next year's 5th grade, what was taught in 5th grade this year, 4th or 2nd or whatever, it goes down one. I mean,
The 5th grade's going, so a lot of 5th grade is going to 2nd. Like the 5th grade geometry is going to 2nd and raises the level. So what worked in 5th grade now won't even work in 2nd grade next year.
5th grade geometry.
But teaching is
still geometry. Okay, so that is, so that's a big change in the math teaching.
Yes.
Coming. And one last question, I think I know the answer, but this instructional material allotment is what used to be funds from the state.
It still is funds from the state, right?
Right.
And it used to be a very simple process. The state would give you 4 books and you pick one. And your teachers look through them. I like this picture. I like this test generator. Now, instructional materials gives us a lot of freedom, a lot more opportunity, but it's also a lot more complex. One of the things, just to point out, that these are the starting point for these resources, Houghton Mifflin, but also Pearson, McGraw-Hill, all of those resources. The starting point is digital. Society, publishers, the state, all of that's moving digital. So basically, you start with digital, and then you add how many years of print you think you need until you catch up to that digital world. One of the huge pieces for me, and we're looking at Houghton Mifflin, was the digital piece. So when we're looking at 2 years or 4 years print, we need that right now. But ideally, we're moving our students in the classroom, but also at home, more and more to the digital piece, where you have those students, and I can only speak specifically to the 6th through 8th grade math with confidence, that every problem that's in the book, they can do that problem on the computer, get instant feedback. It gets graded. If they don't do well, it gives them extra questions, allows them, it intervenes digitally. Every example that's in the 6-8 Houghton Mifflin math book, they have video tutorials of it goes all kindergarten through 8th grade. Every one of those examples is worked digitally. Worked on a video by a math professor, explaining it, giving examples, drawing it. And so, there's a puppet involved. I hadn't seen the puppet. Is there anything else to say? So when we look, and this was the only, one of the things was we needed to adopt K-5 Spanish, and there were several products that had K-5 Spanish support. This is the only one that goes up through 8th grade. The text is in Spanish. Test questions can even be in Spanish. And I think science goes up to biology, which is in high school. That's our EOC course in Spanish for those students who, we want to move those students toward English, but those students that need that support, we have that there. So when I looked at the various options and we talked through all of these, if I was just buying a textbook, a good old-fashioned textbook to go from page 1 to page 472, then I'd wrestle with certain issues. But when I started looking at what do we need in our district for English language learners, for struggling students, for students who need support at home, ways to, we have graphing calculators and now coming down into 8th grade, but those are in the classroom. When I looked at the different products, all of these had, or several of these had built-in graphing calculators on the computer, but by far the best one was Houghton Mifflin. And so when I was grading these out and looking at these, we really kept coming back to alignment with that strategic plan, and then what are our student needs as a district.
And the IMF fund can also be used for electronic textbooks, right? You can use it to purchase.
Yes, you can. And yes, you can go digital. You can use it also for the training piece that comes with the materials. You can use it for that
We're
as
not
well.
quite the 1:1 ratio yet, but we make it in the future.
Correct.
Fund to pay for some of that.
Correct.
Catch up.
So I'm clear, the build on information, Howard's question. Option A, $1,200,000. Option B, $1 million, so roughly $140,000 of the paper, that's the cost difference.
For the 2 years, yes.
But the teachers have the option to print.
Yes.
The option A, teachers would get the information, the district would get the information regardless. Option B, teachers, we might be where teachers may not want the paper. Let me ask you a question is, you said your recommendation, the administration's recommendation is B. Do the teachers align with that recommendation?
The committee did, yes, those
Which-
are
okay.
represented. The other thing I would tell you about the 2 years and versus the 4 years, the IMA committee, and y'all, I don't know if you remember, it's been a while, but at the beginning of the year, you approved the members of that committee, and so that committee did, and then we did have input from the teachers, about 70 teachers that gave the rubrics back to us after, and filled it out, and we were able to use that information.
70 teachers, is what it
But we actually, during the work groups, so I would have 30 in a work group for K2, 3, 4. They would actually use the materials, review the materials, some of them sit to their, all the elementary staff sit to their campuses. 5 was 5 requests. They use them in the classroom. The ones that we actually received back was 70 rubrics out of the ones that actually went to campuses.
Let me tell you one other thing, and that's where I was going. After the 2 years, if we needed to purchase more, and 2 years from now, we can, you know that when you purchase bulk, like right now, we're gonna get the best price, but you could always do that if need be. That is, that can happen later.
Yeah, but not everyone may want.
I have a question.
So,
What are the disadvantages in y'all's eye?
To,
If you don't wanna, what are the disadvantages?
the hardest part is that according to district policy, for us to be a one-to-one district and to really go digital, you have to also provide the device, and it would rely, the task that would pose as far as deployment and doing all that. I think it's the direction we're going, but that really is the biggest disadvantage, is that we can't do that quickly and just automatically for next year. So we do need some time to prepare for that.
any other questions? Is there a motion?
I move that we accept the recommendation with option B as the choice for this.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay? Motion carries. Thank you very much for your presentation tonight. Our last action item is superintendent's contract and salary. And at this time, we will go into executive session to discuss that.
I'm gonna pause this for just a second because I think they had two recommendations and we only voted on one. So I'm sorry, I just, for ensuring that we cover it all, I wanna make sure that we, yeah. This is recommendation 2.
And the third one also? Cool. Is there a motion to approve recommendation 2?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay? Motion carries. Thank you. And recommendation 3?
Move.
A second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay? Thank you. All three passed. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Take care of business. Executive session may be called for purposes permitted by the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code Section 551001 through 551146. Section 551071, consultation with attorney. Section 551074, personal matters including appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duty, discipline, dismissal, and complaint. We will return shortly. Thank you. We'll reconvene in open session from executive session, and our next action item is superintendent's contract and salary. Do we have a motion?
Mr. President,
Mr. President, I move that the board adopt the 2013-2014 superintendent's evaluation as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimously. Thank you.
Mr. President, I move that the board set the superintendent's formal evaluation for a December-January review timeline for the superintendent.
Is there a second? Second. And I want to make it clear, we made an error a couple of years ago, the board, when we received a new superintendent, the evaluation process was always December, January for contract extension and May for salary. Well, when we got Dr. Waska, we thought we needed more data. We moved the contract extension also to May. Well, obviously, it becomes political. And we don't need to have politics come before our kids. So, and we heard that from many, many people. So we're gonna move it back to where it typically is, across the state. Our lawyer's still here, there he is. And do the contract extension in December, January. That'll allow our new board to make a new criteria for a superintendent evaluation. It'll give us some time to understand school board business. We'll also get our accountability ratings from the state. And we can take care of it at a time when it's not political. And we're thinking about kids. And that's what we would like to do. And we had a second? Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Mr. President, I move that the board extend the superintendent's contract to January 1st, 2017.
So it'll be a 7-month extension. Is there a second? Is there any discussion, further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay? Motion passes 5-1.
Mr. President, I move that effective July the 1st, 2014, that the superintendent's salary be increased in the same percentage amount of the mean average salary increase provided to our teaching staff during the summer of 2014.
Is there a second? Any further discussion?
Point of clarification. While Dr. Alaska will get a raise, so will the teachers.
Amen.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay? Cool. And I just want to say that I know Bill Frisell tried really hard to be here today. And I mean, he's a hero to us because he tried everything. He's been trying for months to get to this meeting. And for the board members not up for election or retiring, our vote, Bill was for these. There's no doubt about it. And so it's a 4-1 vote for people who will be on the new board. I think it's important to note that our new board can still have 5 members on it, and it was a 4-1 vote for these things because we know how Bill felt, and you may want to make clear that everyone knew how Bill felt. So even though we're the old board, the new board, 5 members, again, I want to say it was to be a 4-1 vote. And I also want to say this, that when Mason and I came on, they had just approved a new superintendent, and I thought, man, why didn't we get to do that? Because we're going to work with you. But I think because they had done all the evaluation and interviews, and committees, and really and truly, there's a lot to learn about school business. And I know our new board members will learn quickly because there's a lot to learn. They're going to have to learn a lot. And I think that when the evaluation comes up in December, January, they're going to be ready, and they'll know what's going on. And I want to say one more time, politics should never come before kids. Never.
All right, you preach it, do it.
If there's no further objections,
Round of thanks for our.
Sorry?
Sure.
You said round of thanks for our.
Oh, round of thanks for our attorney who helped us for hours. Can I just please, how about a hand for Art? Thank you. And a round of thanks for our school district. Because if you're a board member, you go everywhere in the district and you see people giving their best for our kids. At any corner of BISD, there is no one slacking on helping our kids. How about a hand for our school district? Thank you for being here. If there's no objection, we're going to adjourn the meeting.
Oh, there's an
Hearing none,
objection.
The meeting stands adjourned. Thank you.